Hello guys, welcome to my YouTube channel where I'm going to talk about the analysis of the Pacific World War. Yes guys, this is actually a analysis, or should I say a reaction to what I have fully understand. So I'm going to explain to you guys what I feel, and I also wrote down some kind of things in my pad. So I'm going to be reading from here to explain to you all what I feel about the whole analysis. Basically, if you are new to this channel, or if this is the first time of you coming across my YouTube channel, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on your notification post, because you definitely don't want to miss out from my video. Yes guys, so like I said before, we are talking about the full analysis of the Pacific War between Japan versus American. Guys, this is actually a very hot topic. I remember in school when I was taught this topic, I really disagreed with my teacher because I felt like there were a lot of things I was not even summarizing up at the same time, until I had to do my own personal research. And I feel like we can talk about it. You can tell me what you feel. You could give me ideas of what you feel is right. So I'm going to explain to you all what I have been able to jot down, or should I say what I have been able to research about the Pacific World War. And without further ado, guys, let's get right into this video. In the Pacific War, ocean burned, fire ruined the sky. Like the city was on fire between the year 1941 and the year 1945. Japan and the United States fought a war like no other. Like the war was really bad. Like it was intense. Cities burned down and everything was just going upside down. Lives, people died. Thousands of people, or should I say millions of people, lost their life in the Pacific World War. So I'm gonna show a footage of what happened, a little footage of what happened and how people lost their life. My God. Oh God. This is really bad. This is really unbelievable at this point. I can't believe that a lot of people lost their lives doing this war. Anyways, but beneath every explosion, there was calculation. You understand? Every bombing, every invasion was a decision made by men, maps, fear, but with ambition. They all had ambition about what they wanted. It was not just about the land, it was about empire, resources, pride, and power. Like, like what is all this? All because of power, all because of the empire, all because of the resources and the pride, and a lot of things went down. Anyways, guys, today we'll uncover the full analysis of the Pacific World War, what it started, how it started, and what it cost the world, and how it was fought. This is definitely something you don't want to miss out. So let's dive right into the next stage. The question now is, why did Japan want war? What was the need of wanting war? Japan had become an industrial giant, but each island had no oil, no rubber, no resources, no mineral, no steel. But it reached outward, invading China, conquering Manchukuo, and seizing territory across the East Asian. Like, guys, what do you could think about this whole thing? I'm just trying to explain. Like I said, if I am wrong, or what you feel about this whole Pacific War, if I am mistaken or anything, you can sure tell me in the comment section. I'm open for correction, guys. So, but the United States, Britain, and Dutch stood on its way. They controlled the colonies that had the resources that Japan needed. When Japan invaded French, the United States struck back, like freezing Japanese assets. They had to freeze Japanese assets, and they cut off all oil supplies that was to be sent to the Japanese. That was Japanese lifeline. Without oil, its empire would collapse. Like they would collapse. They've already cut off the oil supply to Japan. So at this point, they had to think very strategically. Now, the Tokyo military saw only one way to get it out, which was to strike first. They had to strike first at this point because that was the only solution. There are a lot of things to actually come to understand and learn about the whole Pacific World War. Now, let's come down to what was the strategy they had to put in place. What was the strategy they had to put in place for their own countries? So, December 7th, 1941, Japan launched a very surprise attack on the US Pacific Fleet at Pearl Harbor. Explosion rocked the harbor, battleship sank, flame turned the sea black, and it was a surgical strike. It was meant to knock out Americans before they could fight. But when the bomb exploded with precision, the plan failed in one critical way. The US aircraft carrier were not able, so the whole plan just scattered, like it all destroyed, even with the fact they already thought ahead of the US. But unfortunately for them, the people were not on port, the US aircraft were not on port, and more importantly, Americans did not sit back at all. They didn't back down. At this point, they had to roll out their life to make sure that what is wrong with the Japanese? Like, even with the fact that we are trying to be calm, but you guys still want to destroy our properties and ruin the lives of people and cause war. I had to think like 10 steps ahead of the Japanese people. When the US people felt like the Japanese people wanted war, the US had to mobilize a lot of people. They had to mobilize millions of people, and President Roosevelt declared a total war. Yes, okay, since you guys want war, what will it be? They had to empower their people, their citizens, their soldiers to get ready for war. This was the beginning of when it all started. This was the beginning of how the world turned upside down, all because of their pride, their ego, their fight for power and resources. For the first 6 months, the Japanese were winning. Yes, they were winning. Like, Japanese advance was unstoppable. They took both the Hong Kong, the Philippines, the Singapore, the Malayas, the Dutch East Indies, and they moved like lightning, like brutal, fast, and relentless. Japan military doctrines emphasized on offensive shock. Their aim was to capture enough territory and fortify it so that the American would give up before the fighting back. But this plan ignored one thing. They ignored one thing, the American economy. At this point, I feel we should look at a footage of what happened back then. Wow, Jesus Christ, this is sad.
Ammunition dumps goes up.
Yeah. So in 1942, the US built more warships than the Japan had built in decades. Like, they had to mobilize thousands, millions of warships that in decades the Japanese would dream of building that kind of thing in their lives. Like, they had to mobilize a lot of people. Every time a bomb fell in the Pacific, the US answered with 10 more. If one bomb should fall in the Pacific, then just know that they should be ready to get at least 10 more bombs being exploded on the Japanese. The US were 10 steps ahead of the Japanese. So the Japanese were already going down. Yes, they were going down because they didn't even calculate very well. Japanese had awoken a giant and the clock was ticking. They had to act very fast. If not, their people will be wiped out of the world. In June 1942, the Japanese made a very fast high move. They tried to trap and destroy the US. They tried to destroy the US Navy at Midway Island, but the Americans' intelligence has broken the Japanese code. When the Japanese attacked, the US carrier were already waiting, like they were already prepared, like they were waiting for the Japanese to arrive. So they were 10 times ahead. Even if the Japanese were trying to play smart, the Americans already broke the code. In just minutes, the US dive bombers sank 4 Japanese carriers. At that point, the Japanese lost its allied pilots. They lost their allied pilots. At that moment, the Pacific tide began to turn, and the bomb would now fall on other direction. This story is really, really terrifying for the people that were alive during the World War, or the people that witnessed the World War. I would say that this is really terrifying, and it will still be traumatic for them if they are still alive. But if they are still alive, they would never forget about this story and about how it all happened. Anyone that survived that war should be a legend. I'm sure it's very hard for someone to go through that kind of trauma. It's not easy at all. American had advanced. They had advanced so badly. The US launched a very bold new plan. Instead of attacking Japanese position, they seized every of their key islands, and they were going towards the direction of the Japan itself. Every island turned into a fortress, every trees turned into a place for hiding, even snipers, bombs, and the rest. Like every tunnel was a trap. Like it was a trap, it was a battlefield. The Japanese fought to death. Them surrendering was unthinkable at that moment. They didn't even want to surrender at all, not even because of what? Because of fear of the US. Why would they surrender? That was what was happening. What was the need of surrendering? Where they felt like they could fight a lot. Everywhere was smelling of death and diesel. They burnt down literally every corner, every cave, every tunnel. Everything was burnt down, and every islands were taken down. With the fact that every islands were taken down, at that point they were reaching their goal. The more every island was taken down, they were getting more of their goal. Like they were reaching the edge of every Japan. The person that planned this war out, or the person that analyzes war for the US, must be a very good genius, like must be a genius. That's just the truth. Now, this is the part that everyone wants to talk about. This is the most popular part. This is about Iwo Jima, the total war. Like the war was a total disaster. By the year 1945, the US targeted Iwo Jima and Okinawa, stepping stones to the Japanese mainland. That was their target. The Iwo Jima and Okinawa. That was their target, so that they could get to the Japanese mainland. Now they were done with the islands. They have cleared out every area. Now they were heading towards the major part of the town. Iwo Jima was defended by 21,000 Japanese soldiers. Were defending everywhere. So look at the multitude, look at the crowd of soldiers that were at the front gate of Iwo Jima. The US bombed the island for 74 days. They were bombing the island. Where did they get that firepower from?
One of our
Oh
ammunition
my
dumps
God,
goes up.
Jesus Christ. This is really brutal. Anyways, guys, this is really brutal, and I'm going to say that is really devastating. Anyways, let's get back into the story of what I have written down for explanation. 74 days, the US bombed the island, and still the defenders fought for every inch. Nearly all of them died, so the 7,000 Americans lost their life. But then they came to Okinawa. It was the largest amphibious assault of the Pacific War, and it was the bloodiest. It was the bloodiest, and it was a very big assault. Like people will lost their life. Both soldiers, civilians lost their life. Over 100,000 people. And by now, the U.S. general feared the truth. If this is what Okinawa looked like, then what will Tokyo look like? What will Tokyo look like? Now comes the decision of the atomic bomb. This is the part that feared me the most. This is the part that I was thinking, is there anything like human sympathy? Is there anything like sympathy at all? Because using an atomic bomb, civilians are the ones suffering it the most. They are the ones literally suffering it the most. The United States had the final decision, which was using the atomic bomb to wipe out every corner, like fire, radiation in just one flash. This is going to be like a radiation. It has gotten to the level of using radiation to wipe out everyone in one flash. On August 6th, 1945, the Hiroshima was annihilated. On August 9th, Nagasaki followed. The visual were biblical. Cities turned to shadows, like they were wiped out, people vaporized, and survivor burned alive. Either they are vaporized, or they have turned to shadow, or even the people that are alive, the survivors, are being burned down to ashes. This is brutal. I must say, this is brutal. Guys, this is really brutal. Coming down to the Japanese leadership, for them it has ended. Not even about the fact they didn't have weapons. It was because there was nobody left to even fight for them. The city was wiped out, so they had to rethink. Japanese leaders had to surrender at that point, because if they go ahead, that means the city will not be in existence anymore. That's just the truth. August 15th, Emperor Hirohito had to address his people. He had to address every single one. The Japanese surrendered. They lost the war. They had to surrender. That was the only way out. If there is any Japanese person that is on my comment section that was alive during the World War, trust me, that person is a superhero. That person is a survivor. That person is a legend, because everyone was wiped out. It was just left with some of the with the Japanese leaders and few of the people. I'm trying to imagine how bad it was. That's the truth. I'm just trying to imagine how bad it was. Anyways, guys, what I have learned, what I have learned from this whole story about the World War, the lessons, the cost, I would say that with what I have learned, the Pacific War cost over 36 million lives. Like 36 million lives were lost. Even the soldiers and the civilians lost their life, all in the name of war. Do you think that the Japanese would have, from the very beginning, do you think that the Japanese would have least brought a negotiation path instead of going through war directly, instead of causing war in the first place? They would have negotiated. This whole thing would not have happened. That is just the truth. Japanese lost their empire, their pride, their resources, everyone, and the American now gained dominance because they won the war. They gained dominance in the Pacific and the world at large. Like they were dominating everywhere. They shaped a new world and everything. I think that's why the US still have power over us. That is why the US have power over the world, because of the Pacific War. But beneath every success and victory was devastation. People lost their life, people died, cities destroyed, hospitals, workplace, everything was destroyed. This is a reminder that war aren't just won by fire alone, but by endurance, calculation, strategy, and perseverance. Yes, the bombs may have ended the war, but it became a new era. Like a new era began, and things had to, like, they had to readjust things. People still had to live under the shadow of the destruction, the trauma, and the fear. This is really sad. The war between Japan and the United States was not just a clash of nations, but it was a warning of what happens when ambitions override diplomacy, and when fear overrides humanity, and when fire overrides reasons. This was the Pacific War, and we must never forget its cost. Thank you very much, guys, for watching. I really, really appreciate. Please don't forget to tell me what you feel about this video, about my analysis, in the comment section. Yes, guys, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on your notification post, so whenever I post, you will always be among the first to see my video. Guys, this was really, really sad, but trust me, everyone needs to know about what came about the Pacific War, how it started, how it ended. So please don't forget to share to everyone. Thank you very much, guys, for sticking and riding with us to the end. I really, really appreciate. Until next time, guys. Bye bye.